Hi everyone, Maria here, and just a friendly reminder, the book is coming. September 10th, 2024, The Empathy Dilemma, How Successful Leaders Balance Performance, People, and Personal Boundaries. This is the guide to help leaders balance the needs of the business with the demands of their people without burning out or sacrificing performance. And there is a special pre-sale offer for 30% off at bit.ly/TED, TED, special presale. That's all one word, bit.ly/TED special presale. From now until August 27th, if you buy between 1 and 99 copies, you get 30% off from the good folks at Porchlight Books. They will take care of you. If you're thinking about buying some copies for yourself, for your team, for your clients or customers, this is your opportunity to do it. So check out that link and it will also be in the show notes. Hope you enjoy the book. Welcome to the Empathy Edge podcast, the show that proves why cash flow, creativity, and compassion are not mutually exclusive. I'm your host, Maria Ross. I'm a speaker, author, mom, facilitator, and empathy advocate. And here you'll meet trailblazing leaders and executives, authors, and experts who embrace empathy to achieve radical success. We discuss all facets of empathy, from trends and research to the future of work, to how to heal societal divisions and collaborate more effectively. Our goal is to redefine success and prove that empathy isn't just good for society, it's great for business. What makes an excellent leader? Today, my guest shares why he believes that leaders who develop their empathy and emotional intelligence are not just better leaders, they become excellent leaders. An excellent leader looks after their own well-being by looking after the well-being of the people they lead. Marcus von Alphen is a leadership psychologist, author, teacher, trainer, organizational consultant, counselor, and restorative practitioner. He's an authority on empathy, emotional intelligence, and well-being. Marcus has a master's degree in psychology from the University of Amsterdam and a degree in electrical and electronic engineering from the University of Cape Town. As a thought leader, he introduces the term observational listening, a theme he has written several books about, including The Excellent Leader and The More Excellent Leader. Today, Marcus and I talk about what a leadership psychologist does, what is observational listening, and how it enables leaders to be more empathetic, to create psychological safety, reduce burnout, and increase engagement. He shares what makes an excellent leader and how they never need to motivate anyone. We chat about why leadership is not viewed as a standalone skill, the link between leadership excellence and corporate social responsibility, the impact of toxic leadership on your bottom line, and how to really change a culture by starting with yourself as a role model. It was an insightful conversation. Take a listen. Welcome, Marcus, to the Empathy Edge to talk to us all about leadership excellence and the role of empathy. So glad to have you here.
Thank you, Maria. Lovely to be.
So I want to start with a little bit about your story, because I really want to understand, and I'm sure my listeners do too, what a leadership psychologist actually does. How did you get into this work, and can you define what that field is for us?
Well, it's actually psychology is all about influence. If you want to, put it down to nuts and bolts, because what do we really want to do? A lot of people say psychologists want to understand people, or we want to understand people. But the reason we want to understand them is so that we can influence them. So that's psychology in general. And well, my specialty has always been on the front of communication. And after doing some soul searching, I decided, well, what's the reason I exist? Why am I here? Why am I on this earth? And it might sound a bit over the top, but I decided I exist in order to make the world a better place by making people more empathic and more human.
Love it.
And from that point of view, that's where leadership psychology comes in. Because one of the things I was thinking about is how large the impact is of leadership on the well-being of the people they lead.
Mm-hmm.
And again, there's this whole idea of empathy comes to the forefront again. So for me, leadership psychology is about well-being. It's about not so much the well-being of the leader, although I also look at that, but it's especially about the well-being of the people the leader leads. And that's really what leadership psychology is about, is trying to get behind the psychology of, say, human beings, which, let's face it, the people who work for us are human beings, and how can we make that better?
Mm-hmm.
How can we make that leadership gets the things done they want to do, and at the same time improve the well-being of everybody? Actually, that's in a nutshell.
Well, and why do you think that empathy seems like such a new concept in leadership these days? I mean, if really leadership is the act of motivating and inspiring people to achieve a common goal, why do you think it's only recently that we're talking about empathy as a leadership skill?
Well, I think for a long time we've lived under the myth of leaders, well, not only leaders, but also the whole work environment is rational. That what we do in work is rational. We leave our emotions at home to lead, you know. So I think that shift really is what's making empathy more interesting. So realizing that motivation, people are always motivated. I don't even believe that you as leader need to motivate your people. I believe it's about finding out what motivates them. And then we're back onto emotions. And then what do you need to be able to see what emotions another is experiencing? And we're back on empathy again. So I think those three really together, they form sort of a circle, which, I know that there's also quite a lot of research that has been done that also just shows that companies where empathy is key are the companies that also perform better when it comes to the bottom line.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the crux of my work, is really curating that data and that research so people understand this is not just this touchy-feely thing.
Oh, definitely.
And, you know, what's interesting is, you know, when I did my TEDx talk, for example, I talked about tricking leaders into being more empathetic by showing them the business case. And I got some pushback on that because people, you know, took umbrage with the fact that I was making empathy this very business-focused skill. And, you know, shouldn't it just be the right thing to do? It should, but the moral imperative hasn't been enough of an argument for some people to embrace empathy. So we have to be empathetic and meet people where they are and say, okay, if you're skeptical about this, here's why this is something you may want to take a look at.
Well, I don't know. I believe it's an and story. It's not an or story. You know, empathy is good for a lot of reasons.
Yes.
And again, I come from the well-being side. That I really, that's where my heart lies. I want people to experience a good well-being, also in the work, especially in the work, perhaps. And I also understand this whole principle of why are you in business? Yes. There is a bottom line, and that bottom line is important. So yes, and the fact that there are so many people who are also finding out that, you know, we've also have this concept of corporate social responsibility. And there's a professor at London Business School. He comes out with this idea, and I might get the figures wrong, but I think it's something like 4% per year better turnover, the companies where corporate social responsibility isn't just preached but also practiced. And empathy is one of the things that fits very well with the concept of corporate social responsibility. It's one of your most important stakeholders. It's your own employees.
Right. Your employees, the planet, the community, all of it, all the other, the stakeholders, not necessarily the shareholders.
Exactly. Well, your shareholders are also stakeholders, but they're only one.
Right. Exactly.
There's so many others too.
Yeah. Well, and I think from a lens of sustainability, you can get short-term success by command and control leadership and not giving a hoot about your employees. But that's not going to be sustainable for the long term. And so if you're really in this to generate long-term success and growth and revenue and impact and all the things, this has to be part of it. And it is always such a funny thing that people get promoted based on their job acumen, based on their ability to perform a task or perform a skill. And yet they're promoted into positions where that's not the job anymore. Their job is to actually lead people. And so that a lot of them falter. And so what have you seen be a good catalyst to get people to understand that just because you're good at the job doesn't necessarily mean you're good at leading people?
At leading people. It's a very tricky one because, again, this is how our society has glorified leadership. And I don't mean that in a negative sense. I mean, it really, we seem to believe that people who perform well at work will also perform well at leading others. And I think that error has really been not to provide proper leadership training and training leadership skills like any other hard skill. I mean, they call it a soft skill, making it all touchy-feely and things like that. I don't believe that's true. It's a skill that can be learned, it can be taught, it can be practiced. You can get better at it. So I don't know, that to me is where it goes wrong, is we should spend more time helping people do a proper job.
Right. Well, and it's the investment in your people and providing that ongoing leadership training. That's not just a nice to have. If you want to reduce turnover, if you want to reduce disruption, if you want to, stop, being able to keep momentum in your organization by ensuring that the people that you put in these leadership positions are adequately prepared for that, then it's not a wasted budget line item. You need to keep it in there.
No. And also this whole thing, I'm sure you were aware of what they call toxic leadership, and that the people who are toxic are the ones who really are the ones who want those leadership positions, except for the wrong reason. And this awareness of actually the person you want for a leader is the person with the heart for the people they lead. And that's actually what it's about. I mean, it used to be that if you were a leader, you were telling people what to do. Our world has changed. We want different expertise in our teams, which means that the team members are the ones with the expertise, not the leader. The leader is there to support, to facilitate, to create a safe space in which these people can get on and do what they've been hired.
So I want to talk about observational listening, because you've talked about observational listening as a tool for leaders to be more empathic. So can you explain to us what observational listening is and how that helps propel a leader into being more successful?
Yeah, well, it actually begins with what we call active listening skills. These are skills that are often taught in communication trainings. And observational listening adds a layer to it, which makes those active listening skills even more powerful. And this actually comes from my own practice in training people in communication skills, where I noticed some people just simply communicate far easier. I mean, for some people, they go into a conversation, they just do it, and other people battle. And in trying to see what's the difference between these two, I came to the conclusion it's the people who really get to it easily, the conversations are effortless, are the people who are observing, and they're observing very specifically the emotions their conversational partner is experiencing in the here and now. So they are reacting not only to the content, but to the content plus the emotional, whatever you want to call it, that emotional level that's carrying that content. And by sort of just aligning with that emotion, they get into the correct profundity in any conversation. And I mean, it's not that you always want very deep conversations. No, but because you can vary, because you're aware of what you're observing, you can adjust how you converse with somebody to get just the right depth in the conversation, that you can get something that's fitting for the current situation, current moment in time.
It's so interesting that you just...
Observation means listening. Observational listening really means to me using as many of your senses as you can to not only listen to the content, but also to listen to the experience in terms of emotion.
So that is so interesting because I love how you discovered it was this common thread among people who don't, I love how you put it, don't struggle in a conversation. Yes. What do you think causes people to struggle in a conversation?
Well, often it's because, I don't know, I think it's because we're in our heads too much. I think we're so busy trying to think, how should I react to this? What should my next question be? I'm letting a silence fall. Ooh, that's awkward. So then we're in our head. We're actually not busy with our conversational partner at all. We're busy with ourselves. And you know, as once you get more easy with this, I don't know, my experience is that using observational listening, it just costs less energy. It's just, you can just be there and it's authentic. You know, it's not something that you're putting on. It's not a trick.
Right.
Whereas I often get the feeling when people have been taught active listening skills, it's being applied. I'm not saying everybody does this, but it's often applied as a kind of a trick in order to get something done. And I don't believe in tricking people. I really believe being open and honest, just like you said at the beginning. This idea, you're being open and honest when you're saying, I'm trying to trick you into believing that empathy is good for you by bringing you a business case.
Right.
I don't believe that's tricking somebody. I believe that's being open and honest.
Right.
And I don't think you can practice observational listening as a trick. I firmly believe it's not possible.
Yeah, I love that because so much of that is about being present. And in the book, The Empathy Edge, the first step in practicing being an empathetic leader is to practice presence. And that means that the bane of our existence, our phones, our email notifications, all of these things, we need to have a conversation with someone and be totally focused on that conversation.
100% agree.
Oh, I love it.
I simply don't know how else you're going to have a conversation if your head's somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like, you know, when I prep for these podcast interviews, obviously it's turn off all our phones, turn off all our notifications. We should be doing that whether we're recording or not.
Well, my notifications are off always.
Exactly. That's why you're more productive. Maria here. If you're listening to this podcast, you already believe organizations can achieve radical success through empathy. But what is the state of empathy in the workplace today? How can we understand what everyone from CEOs to HR leaders to employees are thinking and feeling about how to do their best work? My go-to source has been Business Solver's State of Workplace Empathy Study, now in its 9th year. Business Solver provides benefits technology that transforms HR solutions into a personalized benefits journey. What could be more empathetic than that? It's technology with heart, powered by people. So they know a thing or two about empathy. Learn more about the State of Workplace Empathy Study for yourself and put your empathy game plan into action. Visit businesssolver.com/edge to download the reports and keep the conversation going. New reports coming soon include diving into the mental health statistics and DEIB. Go to businesssolver.com/edge to get the insights you need to transform your organization today. So, can you talk to us a little bit more about the link between leadership excellence and corporate social responsibility? Because I have so many questions around that in terms of what is that link? And can you effectively practice corporate social responsibility if your leaders are not up to snuff? So talk to us a little bit about that symbiotic relationship.
Well, corporate social responsibility is about sustainability, and it is about sustainability. Therefore, it's not about short term, but the long term. And it's sustainability for all stakeholders. And I think this is, again, we're coming to this thing of, let's say you preach corporate social responsibility in your organization, but you don't practice it. for example, you've got toxic leadership in your organization, I'm sorry, it's just not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
So really, if you as an organization believe in this concept of corporate social responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
then you also know that this is for many reasons that you do this. And if we just bring it back to leadership, just to keep it simple, because I mean, we can go all directions on this one, but just simply on leadership, we know how much it costs us to hire someone. And I'm not talking about their salary. I'm just talking about that whole process of hiring the right person for the right job.
Mm-hmm.
Costs us a fortune.
Mm-hmm.
And quite often we forget we also should pay attention to retaining that person, because losing that person means that all that investment we've put into hiring this person flies out the window.
Mm-hmm.
So just hiring the right people isn't enough. So we also should retain these people.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where leadership starts becoming very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you have somebody working for a leader who is a good leader, who's giving the support, is making sure that this person is facilitated and what is needed, these people perform better. They have less sick days. They don't have the intention to leave the organization because they're happy where they are.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Must I go on? I mean, to me,
no, you're good.
To me, this is a no-brainer.
Right.
So all of these things, having good leadership in place, is sort of the basis for corporate social responsibility, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Can you give us some examples of companies and leaders that you've worked with that you're seeing out there that are doing this right, that are walking the corporate social responsibility talk, and what are the traits that their leaders are exhibiting?
Well, can't say I have them directly in my network. The people that I see who are doing a good job are the people who are genuinely concerned about the welfare of the people they lead. And genuinely concerned doesn't mean that everything is touchy-feely, as we were discussing in the beginning, because empathy actually means, or I can put it differently, empathy is information. You know,
it's information gathering. Yeah,
it's information gathering. If you are empathetic, you understand what's going on in that other person, and that makes it a lot easier to just support them in the way that suits them the best. I'm sure you've heard of Dacey and Ryan's research about the 3 basic psychological needs people have: the need for autonomy, the need for mastery, and the need for connection. And of course, everybody differs in the level to which that need needs to be satisfied. Just being empathetic already means you know where a person's needs lie. And this again ties into this whole idea of motivation. I firmly believe if you are an excellent leader, you do not have to motivate anybody, because all you're doing is you're aligning with them, you're supporting them in what they need, you're giving them an environment in which they are safe, where they feel safe, where they can be happy, where they are happy usually. You're providing them with the right level of challenge, providing them with the right environment where people can have good connections with one another, giving them enough space to do their own thing. You don't have to motivate.
Well, those are motivations in essence. Those conditions are motivating certain people. And so it's making sure that, number one, you're hiring people that are motivated by that. And number two, that those motivations are in place in your organization.
And for both of them, you need empathy for hiring the correct people and for creating that safe space. When we're talking about companies, what I often get involved with are companies where it's going wrong. So where they come to me, I remember a company came to me and basically the managing director said to me, well, the problem we're having in our company is everybody's always saying no. And, we've got all these beautiful posters hanging out all over the place with all our values, our core values. And one of our core values is that we collaborate with one another. And what's happening is somebody asks you, hey, please help me with this. And they say, no, I'm not going to help you. And this was one of these, it was a very strange interview, actually, I was having with this man, because I was talking with him and somebody walked in and said, hey, boss, how do I manage ABC? I can't remember what it was specifically. And he looked up and he says, oh, do this, do this, do this, and do that. And the employee walked out and we continued our conversation. And not much later, this happened a few times during our conversation. Now, I don't know what you're thinking, but I'm thinking I understand why nobody wants to collaborate, because everybody's looking for the boss to answer the question. So the boss was under a lot of stress because he was answering a lot of questions and he wasn't getting down to doing the things he really wanted to do because he was constantly busy answering questions. And this was perhaps, it was an interesting conversation. And by just changing his attitude and saying, okay, wait a minute, I don't have to answer the question. So he had to change his style from being efficient to being effective. Efficient is give somebody the answer straight away so they can get on with it, so the issue is solved straight away. But that's short term. Long term is go into conversation with this person, help them to discover how to solve this problem so they don't have to come back to me for the next question.
To empower them.
Yes, indeed. So the problem was, the funny thing is that the problem was role model behavior. And that's also what I believe, you know, if you're thinking, how can we really change, in this case, culture? It starts with demonstrating what you want to see yourself. So be that authentic leader, be that empathic leader, be that empowering leader before you expect anything in that realm from your employees.
I love that story because I think that is so true of when someone from the outside looking in comes in to observe a culture, because leaders are so stressed and they do have a lot on their plate. It feels like we're asking them to spend even more time getting to know their people and tailoring their communication and inspiring and doing all these things. But that's actually the work. That's actually the job. And so taking that step back will spring you forward many more steps than if you keep doing it like you described, the efficient way.
Yeah, but again, you know, I understand where he's coming from because this is the way we've been brought up. And
the way that people have found success at that organization. And so until you have a different model to replace how people can find success, they're going to emulate the models they see.
Exactly. Exactly.
I love it. So Marcus, this has been such a great conversation. I want to close with one last question because you've written a few books. You've written The Excellent Leader and The More Excellent Leader. And at some point in the future, we will see The Most Excellent Leader. But can you give us a few examples that we haven't talked about, maybe 2 or 3, of what are the traits of an excellent leader? And how can folks practice those skills to embody that?
Well, as I say, my specialty comes from communication. So I firmly believe the organization is communication. Without communication, there isn't an organization. So organizing is communicating. So getting into the best communication possible, as far as I'm concerned, that's the quickest way to excellent leadership. And observational listening is one of the tools I offer in that process. And we've mentioned a few of the other things. I mean, we've mentioned this whole idea of empowering. We've mentioned this whole idea of being authentic, of putting the welfare of your people high in your list of priorities of this is what I should be looking at. I think it boils down to starting with yourself. And we've spoken about this as well. Eh? You started by being the person, being authentic, being the person you want the people who work for you to be as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if we're honest, what kind of people do you really want working for you? Are people who are open, who are honest, who are prepared to share their expertise, who are happy to collaborate with one another. These are the things we need, especially in our modern day corporations.
Mm-hmm.
We're not just on a production line anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we have production lines. Even our production lines are different.
Exactly. They've evolved. We need to evolve leadership as
Exactly.
well.
Exactly.
It's interesting that you mentioned this because, and we talked a little bit about another habit being presence
Yes.
of excellent leaders. But this is why for my new book that's coming out in September, The Empathy Dilemma, How Successful Leaders Balance Performance, People, and Personal Boundaries, the first pillar of being an empathetic leader who's effective is self-awareness.
Yes.
Because you can't work to improve and amplify or tone down what you don't know is there. Sure. And so this idea of understanding your strengths, understanding your blind spots, and also being open to that feedback. So that, you know, that's what we talk about when we talk about vulnerability is, are you open to feedback? Are you open to being wrong sometimes? Sure. And I had an excellent, I'll link to it in the show notes. I interviewed a guest who we talked about why we need to be more wrong as leaders,
Yes.
because that is the key. That humility is not the same as like, I don't know what to do. Like that's not that's not humility, but it's that understanding, again, the self-awareness. Here's what I know. Here's what I'm good at. Here's where I have some gaps. Yes. Communication could be one of them. Presence could be one of them. And what are you doing to shore that up so that you can be the most excellent leader you can be, which is your third book that will be coming soon. This was such a delight to talk to you. I want to make sure people know that in the show notes, we are going to link to your free course. The Excellent Leadership series is there, but there's also a free course that folks can start right away. I'll put the link in the show notes. It's been delightful to talk to you today. We will have all your other links in the show notes as well. But Marcus, for folks that might be on the go, where's one place they can connect with you or learn more about your work?
Well, I think the quickest way is to look on my website. It's excellent-leader.com. And perfect. I think that's probably the easiest place.
Great. And they can find all the ways to connect with you on LinkedIn and whatnot. Well, thank you so much for your time today and your insights to help us all be excellent leaders and lead with empathy.
Well, only a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And thank you, everyone, for listening to another episode of the Empathy Edge podcast. If you like what you heard, you know what to do. Please rate, review, and share with a colleague or friend. And until next time, please remember that cash flow, creativity, and compassion are not mutually exclusive. Stay well and be kind. For more on how to achieve radical success through empathy, visit theempathyedge.com. There you can listen to past episodes, access show notes and free resources, book me for a keynote or workshop, and sign up for our email list to get new episodes, insights, news, and events. Please follow me on Instagram at RedSliceMaria. Never forget, empathy is your superpower. Use it to make your work and the world a better place.